The left is a broad, misunderstood, and frankly ununderstandable categorization made up mostly by people who have some goals which overlap somewhat. Depending on who you ask and where you draw the line, the left can include liberals, progressives, anarchists, socialists, communists, syndicalists, social democrats, voluntarists, libertarians, workers' rights activists, and any other number of ists you can think of. And for our purposes, this can cause quite a lot of problems. Firstly, all of these labels can be extremely confusing to anyone hearing about the left for the first time. A lot of people who might otherwise be interested in our values just get put off by kids who care too deeply about labels. And nowadays, I rarely use labels to describe myself, and I'll keep myself from talking about labels whenever I can, unless of course it's absolutely necessary. But a lot of people who are just getting into the left can find it confusing. Not to piss on your chips if you do like labels and more specific esoteric nonsense about the petite bourgeoisie or the collectivization of agriculture, but some people can be made a little uncomfortable by an over-reliance on labels within leftist spaces. We don't do that here. Secondly, at the interchange of many different ideologies comes kind of a lot of friction. And again, a lot of that is just esoteric nonsense about your opinions on a transitory state or a dictatorship of the proletariat, as if they're all things that we should focus on exclusively and put into place before anything else. And honestly, I don't care all that deeply about all that, and neither do the people that we're trying to re-enfranchise. All that most people care about is the real-life things that will actually make their lives better. And that's what this series will have to focus on. And the most relevant problem for someone trying to target a series like this at a group of people. All this causes a whole bunch of entry points to the left. And if you're giving politics a try after being formally disaffected, or you're de-radicalizing from the far right thanks to Vaush and Destiny clones, or if you're getting more into socialist economic policies from liberal progressivism, or you just like the way Bernie Sanders speaks, how I would best sell leftist politics to you is going to be wildly different. And this raises the question, which entry point do I even try to attack? Do I just focus on one specific type of person and miss the other 50 different approaches? Because that isn't politically or financially viable if I'm missing 90% of my potential audience. Do I just try and fumble together a haphazard mix of all of them and aim for the lowest common denominator to widen my net? Because that sounds like it takes a destructive level of meticulous script writing that I don't have the time nor the spoons for. And even if I did manage to make any content under those stipulations, it would come across as weak and shallow and pandering, and I wouldn't be able to go very in-depth on anything in case I lost most of the people in my audience. Now, ideally, the dream is finding somewhere in the middle, where I can appeal to as many people as I can while still being able to explain things succinctly. But that's always been the balance I've strived for since day one of this series. And I do have specific rules I try to follow first and foremost, in order to try and reach as many people as possible. Firstly, when I talk about ideas, I focus less on winning people over and more on not losing people's attention. Attention only goes down over time, and once you lose attention, you can't win it back. Simple as that. Secondly, winning over moderates and disenfranchised minority groups is the most important target in the culture war. Most people nowadays are kind of progressive, accepting, liberal, to the point where the main reason that conservatives have gained any ground politically in recent years is faux populism, concern trolling, and political disenfranchisement, also appealing to bigotry. And winning over progressive, accepting liberals is so much easier than the reactionary gamer bros. And they're also way more numerous. There are so many wedge issues that you can find common ground on that left-wing policies would solve far more effectively. Keep that in mind. Thirdly, think about the fascists last. There will always be more than enough debate bros to bring them over. You know that part in the Innuendo Studios video, where gays' opinions wouldn't matter if a fraction of the efforts put into convincing Nazis they're wrong were instead put into voter reenfranchisement, canvassing, and mutual aid? I think about that a lot. Obsessing over white Nazis' feelings, instead of focusing on winning the popular vote by advocating for voting rights, workers' rights, minority rights, accessibility rights, educational systems, rehabilitative social systems, and anything that makes living life on this place called Earth just a fraction of a % easier for everyone, is not a good plan. De-radicalization is an important battle in the fight for equality, but it's only one battle, and personally, it's not at the top of my priority list. Most importantly, don't just read theory. The occasional passing quote or two is probably fine, but working class people don't care about what Bakunin and Bordicke have to say about agrarian development, and they sure don't care about what Karl Marx thought about sex work. And as for any of the relevant stuff they have to say, 90% of it is overwhelmingly simple stuff that any black or trans or disabled person with 30 minutes to think for themselves would be able to come up with instantly. And while at the moment I might not know too much academically on that sort of level, what I do know is that if I was just rattling off pages of books white dudes wrote, like a theory schlub, I wouldn't be at 1,000 subscribers already. Seamless transition. I guess if the script and the outro are two fabrics I'm sewing together, then me saying seamless transition was technically anyway. I started making leftist content about 9 months ago, and I didn't think I'd be at this many subs already after under a year. But I'd love to see that number keep growing. And if you would too, then please hit the subscribe button below and ring the notification bell if you'd like a notification every Friday at 6 PM British time to let you know I've uploaded a video. You can also follow me on Twitter, where I post cool opinions such as these ones on screen right now, or you could donate to my Patreon if you're one of the lucky people with enough money to do that sort of thing nowadays. Or you could do all three, just a thought for you to ponder. Either way, stay safe, stay spicy, and as always, have a good